Welcome back to Third Age Reforged and a bird's eye view over the fortress of DOL GULDUR. So this is going to be a siege battle, which I haven't done one of these in a little while, at least a couple of weeks or so. Now this was originally going to be a Horton scenario, but I didn't know which one to download so that I could actually view the replay. So that one will probably have to wait until later in the week. But this one, however, still looks to be more promising than the two siege battles I unfortunately wasted my time with at the weekend. It looks decently long, and it looks like it's a 4v3, so there's definitely going to be a good, healthy amount of units on display. So I think we should go through the army compositions, and then we'll get into the battle at hand. So first of all, we have Pizza Maker 90 playing as Rune, Bobo 16k playing as the Dwarves, and Vedetas playing as Umbar. So we have some Dragon's Wrath crossbowmen, and Guildsmen, the Dragon's Wrath crossbowmen, could potentially be match winners if they stay in the town centre for the final stand. We have some crossbow corsairs as well, potentially very deadly, provided they aren't targeted by archers. Mithril Guard and Guards of Khazad-dûm. Harbingers of Castamere, looks like 2 units of them actually, so we've got some very elite forces back here, some Khazad-dûm Reclaimers, Sons of Durin, Camel Shadow Guards, so all of the best and most elite units are back here, with the exception of the crossbow corsairs. You know, they're good, but they're not elite, they die quickly. Then we have a catapult up here, right in position on the hill where it should be. Honestly, with this map I always give the defenders a slight advantage if they have their artillery and all their strong units in the town centre, because it's so difficult to get up this hill. We have some Loke Gambrim, of course, very good at holding the line. We have some Clan Warriors, Loke Scion Rim holding this gate, backed up by Clan Guard, in addition to some Ironfoot Pikemen, more Clan Guard and some Clan Crossbowmen, and some more Gamp Rim Clan Crossbowmen back here as well, more Ironfoot Pikemen, more Clan Crossbowmen, some more of the bread and butter down here. And we have more Camel Shadow Guard, and then several units of Flag Rim, good armor piercing damage on these guys, and then a full complement of Ironfoot Warriors waiting here in the centre, with some Abrazanim Narduzagar, and some Ironfoot Crossbows and Ironfoot Pikes. Moving on to this section of the fortress, the lower section, we have the Belagir Halberdiers, we have the Khazad Orc Hunters, we have some Castamere's Chosen up on the walls as well, some Corsair Blackguards, some Abrazanim Narduzagar, Castamere's Rangers, Ironfoot Crossbowman. We also have some Corsairs, some Abrazanim Nadu Tariq, more Belagir Halberds, and more Nadu Tariq. So it's a very elite defensive force, but then they are facing off against 4 armies. Speaking of which, let's have a look at the first attacking army, which is Dol Amroth, played by Arcturos. And he's got some Dol Amroth men-at-arms pushing the ram. So you would expect, of course, the attacking armies to have much more in terms of numbers, and indeed they do. We also have several more Dol Amroth men-at-arms and some Dol Amroth pikemen here at the front, being the first wave in, which is not a bad first wave to send in. Edelond Halberdiers are better, but the Dol Amroth pikemen are certainly cheaper. We also have some cavalry. Honestly, it's a bit of a risk to bring cavalry as the attackers on this map, because it's only really good for zoning out enemy cav if they've brought any, and the defenders haven't. So these lancers will have to relegate themselves to essentially trying to just add some more mass to an attack in the late game, if anything. We also have some more Dol Amroth men-at-arms and some Tirith Air marksmen. Several units of Tirith Air marksmen, it looks like. Is that one? Yep, more Tirith Air marksmen over there. And then if we look over here, we have a catapult. Edelond Halberdiers, he spread out his army quite a lot, probably to avoid any skirmish fire, but I doubt these guys are in range anyway. More men-at-arms, some Belfalas Marines, which could be very useful in the fortress's interior, some Nimrodel Rangers, and then back here I assume he's got his elite, so he's got 2 units of Talon Knights and 1 unit of the Haven Guard. So yeah, this is going to be a very, you can see Dol Guldur just looming over the hill there, but yes, this is going to be a very robust attack from Dol Amroth. Early on they might be repelled, but later on they certainly won't be. And if we look over here, we have the forces of the Kingdom of Arnor, played by Alien 4695. He too has brought some cavalry and the Knights of Numenorians. They're very strong, but they're not going to be very useful here. The Trebuchet could be very useful if they can get it firing into the town centre where all those elite units are. He's also got some Arthur Day Knights, which are a very elite, skillful unit, and the Arthur Day men-at-arms, which can go toe-to-toe with the Dol Amroth men-at-arms, if not for the fact they have slightly less men in the unit. And then we also have the dismounted Dunedain Knights as the elite core, a couple of units of pikes and the Gate Guards. The Gate Guards could be very useful indeed. He's also got some Dunedain Bodyguard, and I assume he's got some Rangers and some Troll Hunters around here, because his army's very small apart from this. And despite the fact he's got elites, I would still say that he has some money to make up. So we have over here the Orcs of the Misty Mountains, played by Yanokiu. Well, that was probably a butchery of that pronunciation, but nonetheless. We have some Mountain Uruk archers, some heavy goblin crossbows, and some other Mountain Uruk archers. They could get on that hill over there and fire into the settlement, but with the Misty Mountains units, you do have to be careful. The crossbows will be targeted by archers very, very quickly if they do that, but it is still a tactic that's always used on Dol Guldur. We also have some Black Urks of the Mountains. Good shock troops. Will be good up on the walls, provided they aren't just squashed by a very elite unit. A couple of units of Snow Trolls, 2 units of the Black Watch Legion, several units of Heavy Goblin Halberdiers, and some Orc Bodyguards, I assume. Somewhere around here there will also be the Blackback Berserkers. You should always take that as red when you're facing the Misty Mountains. So they've got a pretty decent force, smaller for the Orcs, but then they have got quite a few elite troops, and they will need it if they're going to go up against the runic defense that's over there. And then finally, oh, that's wrong. This army over here is the Free People's Vereador, played by Stewed Fungus. He's got some Cardland Warband out front here pushing the ram. These poor guys don't stand a chance against skirmish fire from the walls. And then way further back down the hill we have the main bulk of his army. Come on, game. There we go. So he has also got some Forest Shell Heavy Swords again, one of those heavy armour, sword and shield units. He's also got some battle ready Dunedain. Of course the unit scaling is turned down slightly, which I'm very glad for, otherwise the lag would be unbearable. So yeah, these battle ready Dunedain will be very good as long as I can get into the fighting without too much molestation from the ranged units. And then we also have the Trebuchet, and then over here we have the Black Wolds, potentially a very damaging unit, very much in the same vein. Make them avoid archers, and if you can get them into melee they will do a lot of damage despite their slightly lower stats. And then we have the Forest Shell Heavy Swords. Then back here he's also got some Cardland Knights. Again, their usefulness is going to be heavily dependent on how they use their cavalry to force their way in. Bandit Javelins, Forest Shell Gatekeepers, Forest Shell Heavy Spearmen, more Heavy Spearmen, quite a few units of Heavy Spearmen. I think maybe he intends to force his way in. Greenway Guards, of course, have got that slight armour piercing value. And then they have that battle ready Dunedain, more Gatekeepers. The Gatekeepers will be very useful if they can get up onto the walls. And then finally some Forest Shell Captains. He might have some Dunedain Rangers hidden around here somewhere as well, because of course they are a hidden unit. So without further ado, I think we should get along with the battle at hand. In the last battle I showed, unfortunately, I forgot to disable the resample in my haste to actually get something out after all the time I had wasted, so that was most unfortunate. Actually, I think I will make a cut until they reach the walls. This battle's going to be long enough as it is. So it didn't take a huge amount of time for the action to actually start, which I'm glad of. Dol Amroth and Arnor are taking much, and you can see the Rangers here are taking much more of an aggressive stance. The Dunedain Rangers up on that hill firing down into the settlement. The other armies are not so eager to advance, only the Cardland Warband are trying to get into the... Oh, and you can see the Dunedain Rangers already under a good deal of archer fire, and they will do very badly in a skirmish fight. You can see the Castamir's Rangers, kind of a similar unit to be honest with you, but they do have the first shots, which means they're always going to have the advantages. You should probably wait to get into the settlement before they start trying to skirmish them down. Also, you can see over here that the gate has fallen, and you can also... There was fighting sounds then, that was weird. But you can also see that the Trebuchet from Eriador has opened up a breach in the wall, which is a very good move. The walls of Dol Guldur are pretty hard to take. Getting up that hill is going to be difficult.
Those cursed vipers are at our gates with their ram.
The runic announcer is so strange. You can see the Mountain Uruk archers also firing down into this area over here, but the crossbows, if they do decide to return fire, will clean them up very, very quickly. But I don't think they're too well, actually, yes, they will. So yeah, the clan crossbows will deal with them, but the Mountain Uruk archers still doing some damage. They would definitely be better off going for the clan crossbows. The Ironfoot crossbows won't take too much damage from lower tier orc archers like that. What is this? Ah, I see. These Ironfoot pikemen have come out of the gates, and they are engaging the Cardland Warband in melee. And this is a fight, of course, that the Ironfoot pikemen will very, very easily win. You can see the Trebuchet is still bombarding the walls. The lag for the walls and the gates falling doesn't actually seem to be present on Dol Guldur, which is very strange. But yes, opening up several breaches in the wall is probably a good move for the attackers. They definitely need to get in and around all of those elite units the defenders have. These pikemen actually could be...
The enemy's ram has breached our
Dol Amroth are now inside. These pikes are actually a little overextended. I'm surprised the cavalry isn't up here. Rear charging pikes does work for a time. You need to quickly get out of there, but even so, these Cardland Warband don't really stand too much of a chance against the Ironfoot pikes.
Steel and valiant hearts must be our walls now. Remember, fear is worse than fighting.
Indeed. You can see that these Tirithea marksmen are now up on the walls, definitely much better suited for a skirmish fight with the Castamir's Rangers. You can see there's also some Ironfoot warriors being brought over here, although to be honest with you, Umbar has got a pretty decent force up here. The only area I would say they're pretty weak is up on the walls here. This unit of Corsairs will not last too long if a unit of Dol Amroth men-at-arms decides to attack the walls. Down here though, they do have their Halberdiers and their Abrazanim Nadu Tarek, definitely all the armour piercing they will need. You can see the Tirithea marksmen actually got an ideal firing line into here, whereas the Castamir's Rangers actually do as well, so well, actually they're hitting the hill a little bit. You can See the Castlemir's Rangers, definitely a very good unit at range, but as soon as they start coming under archer fire, they don't do too well. You can see the Misty Mountains very eager to try and skirmish down, and I don't blame them. This part of the settlement is easily the hardest place to take as an attacker, mainly because you find yourself in full view of the town centre forces up here, and including the catapult. So taking this wall and this gate is very difficult, particularly with all these runic elite units here, like the Loc Scion Rim. Excuse me. Definitely a very good looking unit, the Loc Scion Rim. And the Clan Guard here as well. Armour piercing, but very fragile, of course. So yeah, Misty Mountains are better off waiting, to be honest with you. Eriador, a little less better off waiting. I think a little bit more aggression from Eriador would be called for as soon as Dol Amroth start really committing with Arnor. So it does seem like this is going to be the place where they're more eager to come out. And in fact, the Ironfoot Warriors are pushing outwards. This is an interesting move. These Dol Amroth men-at-arms were in loose formation, I think, so the shield wall of the Ironfoot Warriors easily able to push through, but I think they realised their mistake pretty quickly. I think they were trying to, actually you can see some dead Belfalas Marines, so they were trying to sort of dissuade the javelins. A brave assault from the Ironfoot Warriors, and then usually against this kind of unit, the Dol Amroth men-at-arms, they would do very, very well. But when they're outnumbered, particularly when there's these Dol Amroth pikemen in here as well, they don't really stand too much of a chance. There are the pikes. See these Corsairs still waiting up on the walls, still alone, but you can see now.
Foe has reached our walls with their siege tower. See to it they find
cunning, is it?
here.
Well, regardless, you can see these Dol Amroth men-at-arms are now going up onto the siege tower, and they will very quickly clear out those Corsairs. So a more elite unit is going to be needed, and indeed the Abrazanim Nadu Tariq are going to be sent up onto the walls, and they will very easily deal with the Dol Amroth men-at-arms. The armour piercing that they have, the hit points that they have, the perfect unit to hold back heavy armoured units like the Dol Amroth men-at-arms. So you can see the pikemen back there. If we look in through the gate, oh, there's only one. Well, there's a few Ironfoot Warriors still out there, but they're being overwhelmed by Dol Amroth. Dol Amroth certainly have got a very stylish look to them. Certainly one of the stronger factions in the current patch, I would say, as well. And you can see that now they are beginning their assault. So the Dol Amroth men-at-arms, well, I'm not so sure actually. I think maybe they're just trying to retreat and the unit pathfinding was going a bit strange. But these Ironfoot Warriors and these Balagir Halberds will do a decent job at holding, but you can see now that the Belfalas Marines are back. And the Belfalas Marines are going to be very interested in throwing their javelins into this force over here. Potentially, a good move, but of course the javelins could be very useful late on when they're trying to assault up that ramp. But the Balagir Halberds will also fall pretty quickly to javelins, so it's a few guaranteed kills. You can see actually there's Ironfoot Warriors being put up onto this wall as well, so now this wall is very fortified, and it's actually the lower section of this settlement that I would now say is the more vulnerable. Meanwhile, if we look over here, are the Misty Mountains beginning their move? No, the Snaga Skirmishers have started throwing their javelins into the Clan Crossbows. Clan Crossbows are getting into melee. It's not really the fight that either of these two is built for. See actually up here that the second unit of Mountain Uruk Archers is here. And it does look, it seems as though they're trying to sort of get the enemy to waste some of their ammunition on these lower tier archers, which I do understand, because then they'll be able to use their crossbows later on, which will be far more effective. These Mountain Uruk Archers trying to get a better shot, I believe. But for the time being, the Misty Mountains just sort of, those Clan Crossbowmen are going crazy. Let's have a look over here where the Tirithea marksmen are making themselves at home. So Dol Amroth is certainly the faction which is taking the front foot most of all at this point. These Tirithea marksmen have ceased firing for the time being. What's going on over here? Well, the javelins are still being fired, so it's a bit of a skirmish phase at the moment, honestly. And the attackers are dictating the skirmish for once, which on Dol Guldur is more common than on normal siege maps. It must be said, simply because the terrain, it does mean that the attackers are able to shoot down into. And of course, throwing javelins through a gate is not too uncommon. You see, these halberdiers are very eager to get out of the way. Although now you're just going to be letting your Abrazanim Nadu Tariq take the damage instead, which is potentially a mistake. You can see these Khazad Orc Hunters are coming down here now, presumably to try and shoot the Belfalas Marines, which are really doing a large amount of damage to these Umbar forces down here. Again, these very few Ironfoot warriors are going to be slowly edging out. Their assault didn't really work out too well for them last time. They killed a fair few men-at-arms, but the Marines are still alive. Now the Khazad Orc Hunters. Oh, and you can see now, Dol Amroth beginning their advance, and once again the Halberdiers getting back into position, a game of cat and mouse. So the men-at-arms and the pikemen advancing together. They definitely complement each other well. The Dol Amroth men-at-arms with their slightly higher mass and more survivability. The pikemen, of course, with their long reach. The pikemen do need to get into formation if they're going to have a hope against units such as this. Interesting to see how they handle this. You can see that the Nadu Tower, these Ironfoot warriors are coming back down off the walls, so maybe they might want to begin an assault over here. You can see that these Forest Shell heavy spearmen have advanced forward, presumably to prevent any form of assault as the area door position advances. Once again, we have a bit of a lull in proceedings. There's not even any skirmishers up there anymore, so it very much is a case of, I don't think they really know what to do at this point. They're Forest Shell gatekeepers moving out. You can see that these clan warriors counter-attacked out, presumably to try and kill the Snaga skirmishers, but were quickly and swiftly intercepted by a unit of Blackwatch Legion. Clan warriors are a lower tier unit. They stand no chance against the Blackwatch Legion. The Blackwatch Legion are potentially a very good unit to send up onto the walls, simply because they bulldoze things out of the way, but of course they are very good at going in through a choke point as well. Really the ideal heavy infantry for a siege. Then you can see these Forest Shell gatekeepers and the Snaga skirmishers getting up onto this hill now. This does open them up to counter-fire from these clan crossbows, but honestly the gatekeepers will very swiftly, as long as they get into position and start firing quickly with the heavy goblin crossbowman. The skirmish is real. You can see the defensive position here on the hill. We're definitely going to have to ×2 this fight if it stays as it is. Only so many hours in the day. Meanwhile, finally it looks like Dol Amroth has committed some forces to a dedicated infantry fight. You can see there's also some Arthur Day men-at-arms from Arnor getting ready to follow them in, and this is a fight that Dol Amroth shouldn't win. You know, the Ironfoot warriors and the Abrazani Nadu Tariq are very well positioned to deal with Dol Amroth infantry, and the pikeman is not really in the ideal sort of formation. Going through a gate, you can't really account for this. You need to just sort of push through. But now, with the Arthur Day men-at-arms in here adding a bit more mass, they are sort of burrowing into the formation a little bit. And suddenly, victory does seem certain. Of course, the numbers advantage is for the attackers, and both of the Numenorian and Heresy factions here really pushing as one. The Arthur Day men-at-arms and the Dol Amroth men-at-arms both are pretty hefty units, enough to push back a unit of dwarves and the Abrazanim of Umbar. You can see these Khazad Orc Hunters and these Castamir's Rangers firing in, but now you can see defeat is almost a certainty, but they have managed to push through a little bit more. Also, these Tirathea Marksmen and Dunedain Rangers are returning fire to these Khazad Orc Hunters and the Castamir's Rangers and the advancing Abrazani Narduzagar. The Narduzagar will very much stabilise the position of this line. They're not armour piercing, but they are very skilled, and their hit points means that the Dol Amroth men-at-arms and Arthur Day men-at-arms don't really have much of a hope of killing many of them. But the Halberdiers have definitely had their position crumpled, and this was a decent mass push. Maybe a little early in the match for that sort of thing, but they have at least sort of finally got into the settlement proper. Are these Dol Amroth men-at-arms getting up? No, they're not. You can see that the Ironfoot crossbowmen are coming, the Belagir halberds, Eriador are making an advance in. These Forest Shell heavy spearmen and Forest Shell heavy swords getting up into the face of these Belagir halberdiers. Again, it's the kind of fight the Belagir halberds will like. They're very good against armoured units. Halberdiers in general are a very strong unit to use in this patch. However, they will need support, otherwise their line will be crumpled. You can see over there, in the background, a unit of the Rudar Maidens. You don't see the Rudar Maidens all that much. They must have been hidden at the start. Again, they will obviously be a Rudauer unit in the next patch. I don't really know what their niche is. I think at the moment they're kind of pointless as a unit, because they don't offer anything that the Forest Shell Heavy Spears or the Greenway Guards don't. And they, you know, I think that the idea is to have them mounted in the next patch and make them a javelin throwing unit similar to the Shield Maidens of Rohan, which would make a good deal of sense. But yeah, you can see that they got immediately crushed by the dwarves. Most unfortunate for Eriador. You can see that over here the Ironfoot warriors propping up the halberdiers, which is good for them. The spearmen don't really have the attack value to really push their way through these halberdiers in any kind of hurry. Well, if you look down there, the skirmish battle is still going on over the walls. You can see now that the Tirithea marksmen that are out of ammunition are being committed to this frontline fight to just sort of make sure that the attack doesn't fall apart. Now that they've committed to it, they definitely need to keep sending men in until this position falls. Otherwise all of this will have been for nothing. You can see that Castamir's Rangers won't do as much damage as you might think. See, these Corsairs are actually being brought down off the wall. Are they going to try and get into this fight as well? These Belfalas Marines, are they out of ammunition as well? This fight is still going to go on, but the Abrazani Narduzagar are going to very quickly scythe their way through skirmishers that are out of ammunition. What are these Corsairs doing? You can actually see that the Forest Shell Heavy Spearmen are routing. So yeah, they were ill-equipped to deal with the task that was given to them. And the Forest Shell Heavy Swords are fighting to the death. So Eriador's initial attack did not go too well. And this position is also very heavily defended. Meanwhile, over here it does look like the Misty Mountains have sent forward a very large force. And the Clan Guard are not going to be able to do the heavy lifting against the Black Uruks of the mountains. The Black Uruks will cut their way through them pretty easily. The Black Uruks will come up against a bit of a brick wall when they hit the Flag Rim and the Scion Rim, however. That's when the Blackwatch Legion will be needed. But for the time being, Rune are taking some pretty heavy losses. Where were the crossbows up here? Did they fall back? Did they die? Oh yeah, those gatekeepers got wrecked. Only 23 of them remaining. Most unfortunate indeed. Those heavy goblin crossbows down there, they're still in reasonably good shape. More Mountain Uruk archers. Still, if the defenders are running out of ammunition, that's always good for the attackers. The Misty Mountains trying to push their way through, but now the Scion Rim and the Flag Rim are here, they're going to be pushed back. So the Blackwatch Legion will be required. I'm surprised the frame rate is as good as it is, to be honest. More Scion Rim heading over there. Eriador's attack was a bit of a disaster, to be honest with you. They've got some spearmen out here, but they need to do something. Their allies are both committing. The longer they wait, the worse it's going to be. Meanwhile, if you look over here, the Forest Shell Heavy Swords the Blackwolds are here. The Blackwolds will do very well against a heavily armoured Dwarven unit. They are not armoured themselves, so the axes are kind of wasted on them. And they are very much armour-piercing with their big stone axes. Backed up by a unit of Forest Shell Heavy Swords as well, it gives them a little bit more survivability, and these Ironfoot warriors will fall away pretty quickly. These halberdiers are not interested in helping them out, it looks like. So potentially this is another. They need to get some men up here ready to follow them in, though. Their army is far too scattered and far too all over the place. I mean, there's some Cardlan Elders over here, but they're an archer unit. You can't put them into melee. There's a Trebuchet over there. A lot of the Dol Amroth forces are still lagging pretty far behind as well. And this does mean back here the Abrazani Narduzagar continue to cut their way through Dol Amroth and Arnor, although now some dedicated infantry units are coming forward. It's still not going to be enough. Ironfoot pikemen have now also been sent over here, so the defence will hold. Again, the Abrazani Narduzagar, one of the really good units that Umbar has available to them. Umbar overall has got high attack values, but a bit of a lack of armour piercing, to be honest with you. But the Abrazani Narduzagar still are a very, very strong unit. We can see these Nardu Tariq over here. Well, they're shooting into the back, so the shield value probably doesn't apply. So the Abrazani Nardu Tariq under some skirmish fire from the Dunedain Rangers. One of the OG units of the game. They are under skirmish fire themselves, though, and they are very poor in a skirmish fight. The body piercing that they will get in the next patch will be ideal in a situation like this, because it will go through several of the units at once. And that's kind of needed, to be honest with you, to make Rangers a little bit more worth it. You can see over here that the Blackwolds' victory does seem certain, but they have been... Oh man, what happened to those Cardlan Elders? They got torn apart by something. It looks like the Blackwolds have also taken some pretty hefty losses, so definitely not worth just this one unit for Ironfoot warriors. It is one of the elite units for the attackers. Again, Eriador committing single units like this is not the way to attack a fortress. You need to commit in bulk if you're going to get anything done. Oh, it's the Corsair Blackguards, of course. Again, these Cardlan Elders shown what for by the Corsair Blackguards. There's still a long way in this battle to go, to be fair, and the attackers do have a lot of men available to them. There's a lot of elite units over here. Let's go back over to this gate over here, shall we? Let's go up onto this hill. What's up here? It looks like the heavy goblin crossbowmen have repositioned themselves up on this hill. They have their swords out. So I would assume this means they want the defending skirmishers to kill them, because they've probably used up their bolts already.
Ill news comes unlooked for. The enemy have taken our walls.
Well, you can see that the Orcs of the Misty Mountains have... Excuse me. Oh, man. You can see that the Misty Mountains have had far more success than their allies. They've actually managed to push into the settlement. The support of the crossbows has probably led to this. It means that the defenders haven't been too eager to leave their men here to be shot by the crossbowman. And now Black Uruks and Mountain Orc Berserkers pouring into the settlement. And they're going to tear their way through this unit of clan crossbowman. There's also these Castamir's Rangers in the background, but yeah, you can see that the defenders not too eager to get into range of the enemy skirmishers. The Blackwatch Legion are over there. I'm confused as to why. They do absorb arrow fire, but it's not really worth it. You need to get them into melee. You don't want them to expend their hit points on skirmishers really, because they're so good as a bulldozer. And then if we look over here, we can see that the Black Uruks fighting against the Clan Guard once again, and they will beat the Clan Guard. They will have much less luck against the Scion Rim that are lurking in the background over there. Oh, excuse me. Don't know what's up with me. Might be getting a cold. Meanwhile, what's going on over here? You can see that another unit of Ironfoot was committed, and this was sufficient to kill the Black Walls, but now the Cardolan Knights are coming in. That was a pretty ineffective charge though. Going uphill does mean that they lose a little bit of their speed, and the Cardolan Knights' defeat seems certain. In sustained melee they don't stand a chance against the axes of the dwarves. Eriador are now sending forth more, but Eriador have been very ineffective so far in this fight. They've been stonewalled by the forces that are arrayed before them. Mainly the Ironfoot warriors have dealt with the bulk of what they've sent forward. These Cardolan Knights are getting absolutely butchered. See, this trebuchet needs to be very careful, otherwise the dwarves will catch it in melee. These Cardolan Knights do need to stay in position now to make sure it's covered. These Greenway Guards are armor piercing, but I don't think they're going to have what it takes to beat a unit of Ironfoot warriors. They really need to be supported if they're going to try and take this fight on. It doesn't look like they're going to comply. The dwarves, you can see, just pushing them back. Not really much of a chance for these standard Eriador men. And then there are spearmen. Eriador are looking pretty haggard already, to be honest with you. They have their trebuchet, they have their battle-ready Dunedain, and they have their javies, but that's about it. This trebuchet is now directly in the firing line of a counter-attack, and the Corsair Blackguards could very easily kill the crew. What's going on down here? Well, the Corsairs have joined the front line, as of the Abrazanim Narduzgarh. There are now some Eidolon Halberdiers coming to the front line to support these Arthur Day men-at-arms. The Halberdiers, though, defeat seems certain. There aren't enough of them, and the Abrazanim have really done a number on Dol Amroth and Arnor so far. Again, they need to commit more Halberdiers. They need to commit in bulk. When you see an elite unit, you need to commit more men. You're not going to be able to get through. You're not going to be able to get much done by just going in one at a time. And so far, the defenders have done a very good job at holding off Dol Amroth and Eriador's advance. You can see the Corsairs won't be up to much in melee, but now victory does seem certain that another unit of Eidolon Halberdiers are here. So they will finally be able to start wearing them down. You see that these Knights of Numenos are coming over here, as well as the Dor en Ernil Lancers. I'm wondering what they intend to do with these cavalry units. I think at this point in the battle they're realising that the cavalry is probably not going to be up to much. You can actually see that these Ironfoot warriors' defeat is now almost a certainty, because a unit of genuine quality in the battle-ready Dunedain has been sent forward to help the Greenway Guards out. This is exactly what Eriador need. They need to start making some headway into the settlement. Otherwise the Misty Mountains is likely to be sort of focused down and surrounded. You can see actually that they have been pushed back a little bit in places. These Mountain Orc Berserkers don't stand a chance against guards of Khazad-dûm. You see those runic elites as well. Well, elites. Flagrim are... I guess the Flagrim are elite. They're not hyper elite, but you can see the skirmishers are up there as well. But the Black Uruks were pushed back, and now the Ironfoot pikemen are on the front line, going toe to toe with the Heavy Goblin Halberdiers. The Heavy Goblin Halberds won't be able to beat the pikes without support. There are those Snaga skirmishers in the background. There's more Black Uruks as well. Again, I think that the attackers have missed the trick here, in the sense that they're not committing forward enough. A unit of Ironfoot pikemen would buckle under the... If these halberdiers were supported, they would buckle anyway. But unfortunately, they're not really doing that. These units are routing through the pikes. Victory is a distinct possibility. Again, you can see that with the support of even a routing unit, the pikes are starting to fold their position a little bit. They really need to get some support in there. The Snaga skirmishers have got their javelins in hand. I'm surprised that these Scion Rim aren't attacking into the side, to be honest with you. These heavy goblin halberdiers would be cleaned up very quickly in the result of that. But yes, the Misty Mountains have been forced back a little bit. They have those halberdiers down there. A lot of their forces are still waiting in the background. I'm not sure why, because there are no skirmishers up on these walls. They could very safely move their whole army up, ready and in reserve. Even with the tower, well, I guess the towers are there. The towers do a lot of damage. This trebuchet has not really done anything at this point. You can see that Dol Amroth finally making more of a push. The Etalon halberdiers leading the way with the support of the Dol Amroth and the Arthur Dane men-at-arms. However, the Corsair Blackguards are over here now, and they are no joke in melee. Very skillful, very tough to kill. You can see actually that the wall is now the subject of their ire, and this is something they probably should have done quite a long time ago, to be honest. But you can see that those Dunedain Rangers and Tirathea Marksmen have been shooting these Abrazanim Nardu Tariq for a long time now, and they've basically taken no losses. The Abrazanim, well, at least the Nardu Tariq, are excellent at taking arrow fire, as long as it's not AP, of course. Yes, finally this wall is going to be brought down, and they can start attacking into the sides, and Dol Amroth and Arnor can then finally start making some moves into the settlement. And then they can help out Eriador, and then in turn they can help out the Misty Mountains. That's how it generally tends to go, because this is often the least defended of the gates. This trebuchet over here being moved back into position. There's a lot of arrows flying. There's these Ironfoot crossbows. There's the crossbow Corsairs being sent forward. They need to be careful to stay out of the melee fight. You can see that there's a few Arthur Dane men-at-arms being sent over here. There's Castamir's Rangers getting into melee, as well as halberdiers. These Cardland Knights don't stand a chance in sustained melee with halberdiers and dwarves around. Yeah, the cavalry probably not worth it. It's often worth it to bring one unit of cavalry, just to make sure that, well, maybe a couple units, but make it so that only one player is bringing it. Spreading it out like this, like particularly this unit over here, the Knights of Numenus, I don't see how this is particularly worth it in this situation. I mean, they're very expensive, and they're definitely worth, it would definitely be worth more elite infantry. Something like Troll Slayers. Like if I would assume that Arnor has brought Troll Slayers somewhere. We have a look down there. Dunedain Bodyguard. Are there Troll Slayers? It's Pikemen. There's Knights. Well, there goes the wall. And immediately it looks like they're going to be very eager to get into that settlement. There's Arthur Dane Knights. Arthur Dane Knights are there. I mean, if these Arthur Dane Knights were to surround this position now, it would basically make this part of the fortress fold. So they should absolutely do that. But a bit of hesitation. Those Arthur Dane Knights instead deciding to go through the gate. I guess that's pathfinding issues. Again, it is medieval too, so pathfinding issues are plentiful. But still, these Arthur Dane Knights well, they're taking a lot of damage as well. The crossbow Corsairs are in position with their harpoons. Again, their harpoons mean their missile damage is very high. They're really the ultimate glass cannon in the game. Those Castamir's Rangers also getting into the front line, trying to support them. And now the Guards of Khazad-dûm are coming down here, so they definitely need to flank around, because going through the Guards of Khazad-dûm from the front is going to yield a very little in the way of results. But we shall see. See the Bandit Javelins have been engaged in melee by the Ironfoot warriors, so they need to run away with all due haste. And these heavy spearmen and these battle-ready Dunedain need to get into the Ironfoot warriors. What's going on over here? The Ironfoot warriors. Well, it looks like there was a bit of a cessation of hostilities over here. The Greenway Guards took a lot of damage. There's more Rudal Maidens, but then they were crushed underfoot.
Our cunning foe has reached our walls with their siege tower. See to it, they find only death here.
There's one Cardland Knight left alive, the banner carrier. Let us follow this brave individual. He's getting some hits. Those Bandit Javelins are hitting the crossbow Corsairs. There goes the Cardland Knight. Probably not the best use of their time, to be honest with you. Standard archers will do the job against crossbow Corsairs. Bandits are much better off going for heavily armoured infantry. The Misty Mountains getting a siege tower set up, which is probably for the best. These trebuchets have sort of been moved around all over the place. Again, all you need to do with the trebuchet at this point. Set it up here. Point it this direction and make it fire into this blob. That's all you need to do. I'm not entirely sure where he's setting it up to, but he just needs to fire into that big blob of Gamprim. There's Dragon Slayers in there as well. I missed them in the army compositions. That would be ideal. And that would turn around their ill fortune that they're having at the moment. The Blackwatch Legion. I'm not sure what they're doing, to be honest with you. It's a unit of Flag Rim, I believe, that are trying to hold this gate now. Well, here they are. You can see actually that these Heavy Goblin Halberdiers are getting up onto the walls to face the Flag Rim. There's more Halberdiers over there. Again, Halberdiers are not really the ideal wall fighting unit because they can't get into formation. And they're going to find themselves very quickly butchered by the Flag Rim. And at this point I would worry for the attackers. If we look here, well, the percentages suggest that they're not doing too badly, but it's really this. They're not going to have enough left to really force their way up this ramp at this point. If they're not careful, those trebuchets are going to need to do some work in the late game. See those Forest Shell Gatekeepers? They're fighting. They used up their ammunition. That would be very unfortunate. I mean, they're good in melee, but even so. The Bandit Javelins have used up their ammunition and now they're being thrown into battle against the Ironfoot Warriors. There's still a single Blackwold over here, covered in blood. The Bandit Javelins stood no chance against Dwarven Infantry, of course. Some of them managed to push into the settlement though. That's pretty impressive. Crossbow Corsairs firing, and it does now look like the Arthur Day Knights are finally flanking around. And there are also Talon Knights on the front line. So between the Talon Knights and the Arthur Day Knights, what's left of the Umbar defence over on this front will finally start to crumble. And then these forces are going to need to help out Eriador into getting into the settlement. And then in turn the Misty Mountains, and then it will be the final stand, but there's still a long way to go in this fight. See that the Crossbow Corsairs, you can see that they actually use like the Javelin graphic for their animation, and in fact up here you can see that the Dunedain Rangers have gone up onto the wall. Presumably they're out of ammunition. Just holding these Abrazanim Nadu Tariq in place is probably not the worst idea, simply because it means they won't be able to reinforce the flagging defence that is down here, and the Talon Knights just forcing their way through. Again, of a similar thing, well, of a similar tier to the dismounted Dunedain Knights and the Wardens of the White Tower, one of the monstrous sword and shield units of the Kingdoms of Men, in particular the Numenorians. Harbingers of Castamere taking a huge hit there from the Arnor Trebuchet, and now they're running. What's going on over here? The battle-ready Dunedain are in melee, supporting what's left of this Forest Shell Heavy Spear unit. These Ironfoot Warriors, they're not going to be able to defeat a unit of such skill, so the battle-ready Dunedain will have victory over here. But again, Eriador still have yet to get into the settlement in any real capacity, which is not great for the attackers. These Forest Shell Gatekeepers did still have ammunition. They're shimmying to the side, but they need to get out of there. The Ironfoot Warriors are going to get into melee with them. This is a unit you cannot afford to waste as Eriador. It's really in my opinion, their best unit by quite a long way. These Greenway Guards are probably going to charge forward and engage the Ironfoot. The Greenway Guards do need support though. Both these units of Greenway Guardsmen need to get in there and face these Ironfoot Warriors, then they might have a chance. You can see there's another unit of Gatekeepers, the one that got heavily damaged. These Rudar Maidens, this unit of Forest Shell Heavy Spears that are in shield wall, preventing a counter-attack. Ah, hello. The Misty Mountains really coming forward. The Snow Trolls and the Blackwatch Legion and the Orc Bodyguards and the Mountain Orc Berserkers, so Yank, I will call him, has really committed everything at this point. Again, it might have been worth waiting just a little bit longer so that his allies go into the settlement as well, but he's definitely going to be causing some chaos over here. He's definitely going to be causing some damage. These Snow Trolls, the Trolls are capable of a lot of damage in sustained melee, provided they're not up against high damage units, and honestly the Scion Rim, not the worst opponent for them. Although the Gamprim are advancing down the hill now to try and shut the door in their face. Over here, actually, the Halberdiers were able to get into some sort of formation. So for once, a polearm unit on the walls is actually doing not a terrible job forming up against this Flag Rim. But ultimately, I wouldn't recommend doing this under normal circumstances. If you see a gap on the wall, maybe, but not if you're trying to force your way through. Mountain Uruk Archers still firing. You can see now that there's also Tirithea Marksmen. So at this point, the attackers are starting to file in and they're starting to engage single units. These Tirithea Marksmen fighting the Ironfoot Pikemen, just engaging them, making sure they can't retreat. The Abrazanim Nadu Tariq fighting against Foreshell gatekeepers of melee, these heavy spearmen. Things on these fronts are actually starting to look up for the attackers now. They've managed to deal with a lot of these units, these Nimrodel Rangers. They've got their swords out, which is worrying. It means they might have used all their ammunition up. But yes, they've finally managed to force their way into the settlement, but at what cost? I mean, Arnor still have got a pretty heavy amount of their elite forces left, and they still have their pikes and their rangers. Dol Amroth have their Talon Knights and their Haven Guard and their rangers. Dol Amroth took some pretty heavy losses over here. It's a similar story over here with Eriador, I think. There's not really a huge amount they could bring to the table. They still have their captains, I suppose, but that's about it. And they're still taking more and more losses. These Rudal Maidens. I mean, the Abrazanim Nadu Tariq is actually trying to run because they don't want to be cut off. And these Rudal Maidens... defeat is almost a certainty, and they're only facing a unit of Ironfoot warriors that's not even there, really. Yeah, the Rudar Maiden's definitely one of the trash units of this patch. That's why you don't see them an awful lot. These Snow Trolls causing havoc in the defenders' line, so it was a very good move, it turned out. Now there's cavalry in the settlement, so the aggression of the Misty Mountains is definitely paying off at this point. Some of their trolls are starting to fall by the wayside now, but their Blackwatch Legion and their Orc Bodyguards are already in the settlement. And these pikes are not really in a good formation at all. Having said that, these Dort and Urnil Lancers do need to be careful not to get trapped by them. You can see that over there there's some Nimrodel Rangers. It's all happening at once now. There's also these battle-ready Dunedain and the Knights of Illuminus. Nimrodel Rangers are not going to sandwich the Ironfoot Crossbowman, which is a bit of a shame. You can still see there's the Arthedain Knights just finishing off what's left over there. Dunedain Rangers. The attacker artillery is going to be their hope, I think. Their one hope. Because I don't think they have enough in terms of men to force their way through all of the elites that are camping on this hill. I mean, look at this. They've got Mithril Guard, Khazad-dûm Reclaimers, Crossbows, Pikes, Guards of Khazad-dûm, Camel's Chosen, Dragon's Wrath Crossbowman. This is a very hefty defence on the ramp. Even so. There's some more Mountain Orc Berserkers still alive. But now you can see that now that the Flag Rim is sort of starting to focus down the Heavy Goblin Halberdiers, they're starting to really clean them up. But even so, it's another unit that's just being occupied, and the defence is a little bit splintered down here now. These Gampharim victory seems certain, despite the fact they're completely out of formation. They're a very good pike unit, perhaps too good. These Dort and Urnil Lancers were caught in melee by them, and they've been largely expended again. The cavalry not really worth it in this situation. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. That is exactly the kind of thing you don't want to do. I was mentioning how the cavalry was potentially a waste. Only 3 Knights of Illuminus managed to survive their harrowing experience with the spikes. There's 2 units of Knights of Illuminus as well. Yeah, that's too much. That's too much money dumped into cavalry. They certainly would have been better off with the Dunedain Troll Slayers, especially considering that. That is dreadful. That is poor. Here we have the Foreshell Captains and the battle-ready Dunedain fighting side by side. The Talon Knights are getting into this fight as well. The Abrazanim that are down here, along with the Loke Gampharim, are cut off. So really it's only a matter of time for stuff like the Talon Knights. We'll clean them up, as well as the Blackwatch Legion. Skirmishers are firing into the back of the Flag Rim, and it is... is it the Rangers? It is the Nimrodel Rangers. So the Nimrodel Rangers will do a good amount of damage to these Flag Rim. Probably kill them off, to be honest, with that armour piercing. Are there more spikes up here? There are not. So perhaps the Knights of Illuminus could do something. That was one of the worst experiences I've seen with a cav going through stakes. He must not have seen them, because that was insanity. There was a perfectly good gap in the wall that he could have used. Here we can see that he's charging into pikes as well. This is highly questionable cavalry micro. Victory does seem certain, but ugh. The cavalry was never going to be too much use anyway, I don't think. But even so, I mean, they could have been used in the very late game to try and push their way through the enemy lines into that catapult, which is clearly going to ruin the attacker's day even more. These Flag Rim, I think they're trying to run away from the Nimrodel Rangers, which does technically mean that the Heavy Goblin Halberds were victorious. How about that? We're coming up on the halfway point of the battle, actually. 32,000 frames. We'll be around the halfway point. And so far I've placed the advantage squarely in the defenders' favour. Again, if we look here, well, I mean, they're losing technically in terms of percentages of kills, but I just think that that defensive position, it's so difficult to take when you're the attackers, and there's so much in the way of elite units back there. I don't think the attackers have got enough elites left. They've got Battle Ready Dunedain, Talon Knights, Haven Guard, sure, but I don't know. Are there Blackback Berserkers anywhere to be found? There they are. As soon as I say that, they reveal themselves. There's more Blackwatch Legion as well. The Trebuchet needs to do some serious work on this defensive position. If you let the defenders camp in this sort of situation, then it's on you, really. As the attackers, you need to dictate to the defenders that they cannot camp. You need to use your skirmishers and your siege to force them to come forward or to retreat. Because then you're forcing the initiative onto them rather than the other way around. You see these Ironfoot crossbowmen charging down the hill, kind of a waste to be honest with you, because they're just going to be intercepted by Talon Knights and butchered. They might do a little bit more in terms of hit point damage, but it's going to be negligible. These Orc bodyguards have taken a bit of a hammering. There's still individual, very depleted units knocking around. Here we see the final vestiges of these units of Flag Rim. There's also the Forest Shell captains. These Knights of Numenorians decided to come back into the settlement now, this time not going through the spikes. There's still units in reserve over here, there's still a catapult. It's going to come down to the artillery, I think. The artillery will be the kingmaker, and unfortunately for the attackers, the defenders already have theirs set up and ready to go, whereas the attackers will need to move theirs into position. The Trebuchet could shoot over the wall, which is what I've been saying. Setting it up there, you would have the perfect firing position. And you can scarcely miss. I mean, it's so densely packed up there. So yeah, these Ironfoot crossbows were sent to their deaths. The Forest Shell captains and the Talon Knights going to be far, far too much for the Ironfoot crossbows to cope with in melee. The Nimrodel Rangers trying to get into position, trying to use their skirmish. Again, the attackers do have a lot of archers available to them. Here comes the cavalry again. Cavalry not going to be able to force their way up that ramp at the moment because of the Ironfoot and the Loke Gamp Grim. I was going to say Flag Grim, but those pikes there. Also, they have the mass advantage of having the guards of Khazad Dûm right there. What are those archers that are firing at them? Oh, it's the Gatekeepers and the Nimrodel Rangers. They're going to do a pretty hefty amount of damage to those Ironfoot pikemen. Those Clan crossbowmen are firing. There are the Knights of Numenorians. But yes, now the Orc bodyguards, and now it's going to be sort of the ramp fight. As soon as it becomes clear it's going to be locked into a single choke point fight, I will buff it up to ×2 speed, I think. But yes, this has been a good one so far. The defenders have not done a huge amount wrong. They are still technically losing at this point in time, though. Primarily because of the skirmishers. I mean, I think that the attackers have made... I think that Eriador, his assault maybe wasn't as good as it could have been. And I think that the addition of the cavalry was kind of a waste of money. I would say if Arnor had their Troll Slayers instead of their Knights of Numenorians, and if maybe Dol Amroth in particular have maybe brought another unit of infantry instead of those lancers, things would be looking very bleak for the defenders. But as it is, I mean these Knights of Numenorians, I mean they're charging headlong into pikemen. There's chanting going on, so I know that the that's actually the Mountain Orc Berserkers, not the Blackbacks. The Blackbacks are hidden. There's more units back there. What's this? Ah, I see. It's Rangers. Are those Troll Slayers? Nope, it's just standard Rangers. They do have their bows out still, so they do still have some ammunition. But here we go. Choke point time, and here comes the Trebuchet. Where'd the catapult go? Well, I suppose it was getting focused down with skirmish fire, but even so, as the defenders, you're going to need your catapult ready to go, because that is going to be your ticket to victory. All of these elite units from the dwarves and such might be enough to send them through, but they do need the assistance of that artillery. Dol Guldur often leads to quite close battles just because of this final position. being so hard to take, whereas in most siege battles the attackers often have a pretty distinct advantage. I might do a standard siege myself at some point on a citadel, just because they do tend to be a little bit more layered, and it does tend to be a little bit more fluid, whereas a lot of these kind of maps, they do have a lot more choke points. The themed maps are very cool, but obviously a choke point fight, it often turns into very much the same sort of thing. The battle-ready Dunedain being targeted by the crossbow corsairs. There's also some harbingers of Castamere up here, in addition to the Khazad-dûm reclaimers. It's a game of cat and mouse with the skirmishers at the moment. Yeah, and the battle-ready Dunedain trying to get out of there. A few more of them falling though. But yes, I think it's time for a bit of ×2. At least until something new occurs, because this is going to be it for the rest of the battle now, and it's still just under half the battle to go. As we can see, it's going to be a game of cat and mouse between the skirmishers of both factions at this point. These Talon Knights, interestingly enough, went forward and they're being engaged by guards of Khazad-dûm, which does mean they will lose. Is that the only Knight of Numenos left alive? Yes, it is. As you know, there's more back there. That was the one that... well, that was the one that crunched through the spikes and lived. You can see that it is just a case of trying to get the artillery into position at this point. How will this work out, I wonder? I must remember to disable the resampling this time. The blur that resampling gives you is so obnoxious. I don't know why it's on by default, to be honest with you, but hey. I don't make video editing software. You can see that these Rudan maidens potentially coming forward. I mean, they will get butchered by these dwarven units. Look at all these trebuchets just littering the inside of the settlement. The trebuchet is firing now. How is this going to go? I mean, the arc, that if it went in there, I mean, is the catapult going to fire as well? No, it isn't. Not just yet. It does say the trebuchet is firing missiles, but it looks like the crew is still trying to push it, which is unfortunate for them. Again, this is going to be the ultimate in choke point fighting. This is ×2 speed, and still there is no movement. Oh! The Dragon's Wrath crossbows with a single volley destroy an entire trebuchet crew. That was insane. I had almost completely forgotten about these guys. That was brutal. The Blackback Berserkers are on the front line and they will force their way through, so some more infantry is going to need to be sent forward. Or the Dragon's Wrath crossbows could just eviscerate them with a volley of their flaming shot. That would be all of their shot, but destroying a whole trebuchet at this late point and some Blackback Berserkers would be well worth it. They're also very accomplished melee troops as well. So that would be more elite infantry that they have to fight their way through. Need to keep an eye on them. Trying to get a good angle that I can just sort of set myself up in. Here we are. Let's go back to ×2 speed, shall we? But yeah, the Dwarven position has been completely overrun, and now it's only a single unit of Gamp Brim. They need more in terms of melee reinforcements down here. One unit of Loke Gamp Brim is not going to be able to hold them off. It does actually look like the Khazad-dûm reclaimers are going to come forward and throw some of their axes. Again, they're a very strong axe thrower unit. They do a lot of damage in terms of their missiles, and they're also a very strong melee unit as well. And they are reloading, firing their missiles, throwing their axes in. Dragon's Wrath crossbows just waiting there. I would say that the defenders are probably running a little low at this point on skirmish ammunition. They are throwing their axes. The axes do have a different graphic as well to the javelins, which I like. There they go. You can see them get thrown. They do a lot of damage, but I still think another unit of infantry is needed, and it does look like the Mithril Guard is being sent forward, so the heavy guns are being committed. The Gamp Brim, actually, you can see that with the support of those axes, victory seems certain against Blackback Berserkers. And with the addition of those Mithril Guard, there's no chance that the attackers will be forcing their way through this position anytime soon. And the Gamp Brim just trying to hold them back. The Mithril Guard have decided to stop in their tracks. could have sworn that was one Cardland Elder. But again, the dwarves are always going to be very strong against non-AP missiles. Now the Mithril Guard are being sent forward, and some Shadow Guard it looks like. So yeah, the Mithril Guard's presence on this front line is going to be needed. Now there's some Arnor pikemen being sent forward, so they're answering pikes with pikes, which they probably should have done a little while ago, to be honest with you. The Gamprim are still a better pike unit than the Arnor pikemen, but just some sort of response to them was needed. There's also Shadow Guard down here. The Khazad-dûm Reclaimers still throwing their axes, and they will also be a very accomplished melee unit. They will hold the line for a good long time. And I think they have run out of ammunition now. They don't have a ton of ammunition, to be fair, but their missiles are very damaging. And now the Dwarves and Rune holding this ramp. There's still an amount of skirmish fire coming from the Dunedain Rangers. Dunedain Rangers will do a pretty hefty amount of damage to the Gamprim and the Shadow Guard, less to the Dwarves. Is the Catapult trying to get into position to fire? They should have kept, well, I don't know, maybe they shouldn't have kept it in position. It's hard to tell. We'll see what works out in the end. This is it, the final stand. Can the attackers breach the defences? This is how it often ends up on Dol Guldur. And there's a lot of elite defenders trying to hold back the tide. This is the problem with the Catapult. As soon as you move it off the ramp, it can be very difficult to put it back into a position where it can fire. And in fact, that is in real danger of being caught now, because the Blackwatch Legion are just forcing their way through. If not for the Mithril Guard, the Blackwatch Legion would have tanked their way through there. And in fact, I think they see the danger and they're going to commit a unit of Harbingers of Castamere to the front line. Again, another very, very strong melee combatant. The best of all of the Umbar elite units. And Umbar are an infantry-focused faction. The only thing they really lack is AP, but they've got such high melee defense and armor. They've got 48 defense all in all, which for a dual-wielding unit is insane. They're like, if you could combine a shock unit with a shielded unit, it would be the Harbingers of Castamere. They are taking quite a lot of arrow fire at this point. But yeah, the balance of forces is evenly matched. The Mithril Guard holding their ground in the face of the arrows. The unshielded Harbingers, the hit points will still do something for them, but it looks like the Knights of Numenor could be just the thing right now to force their way through into those clan crossbows. You can see now, it was the Foreshell Gatekeepers, that's why so much damage was being done. There's also Sons of Durin back there though. The Dwarves still have the Dragon Slayers and the Sons of Durin, and the Carmel's Chosen, Dragon's Wrath Guildsmen, more Harbingers. Can the elite units pull it off? That is the question. There's more blackbacks being committed now, so they did have 2 units after all. The Blackwatch Legion, after the initial push, they do tend to fizzle out a little bit, and you can see that the Blackwatch Legion have largely been destroyed at this point. The Harbingers of Castamere were sufficient to keep the line in, well, keep the line solid. What is this? What are these flags anyway? Umbar. That's not right at all. Hold on a moment. No, Umbar have got their little emblem. So what's this? I guess they did change the flags after all, because I don't recognise that from standard medieval. Oh, the Catapult's firing. What are they going for? Ah, the Gatekeepers. Good choice. Oh, and the enemy Catapult is right here as well. They need to be returning fire on this enemy Catapult, to be honest with you. It's much more important they don't get hit. Oh dear. What are they going to do now? The Mithril Guard are actually retreating, it looks like. The Gamprim are going to be sort of abandoned to their fate. And that means the Catapult is as well, because there's no way the Catapult's going to be able to get out of there. And the Catapult is being destroyed. So the attackers seizing the day, destroying the enemy artillery, which was potentially their way back into it. It's far too late to be returning fire on the Catapult now. I would just try and get a nice juicy hit on this group here. Fire, Catapult. Quick, before you're destroyed. And it missed. All it did was kill a couple of Catapult crewmen. Although it does look like the enemy Catapult is moving as well. So both of them blinking. Just going to go back to times 1 speed, as it were. Dragon's Wrath crossbowmen, have they been using their ammunition? Because they do have their blades out. They could have been using their splinter shot. There are these Greenway Guards. The Arnor pikemen. Now they have the numbers advantage. They will manage to force their way through the Gamp Rim. They're only backed up by a bunch of crossbow corsairs. The crossbow corsairs pull out 2 of their bolts and use them as melee weapons, which I find pretty cool. And actually the Dragon's Wrath Guildsmen are coming down the hill to join the fight. They're not quite as good as the Harbingers of Castamere, but they're still not to be taken lightly. As a rule, I tend to take the Carmel's Chosen over these guys, unless you're against the Owls, but even so, they're still a very robust unit, which can do a lot of work, but defeat is a distinct possibility because this, these Blackback Berserkers are just the sort of thing that will tear through the Dragon's Wrath Guildsmen. They do, committing them was probably a bit of a mistake, to be honest with you. If you intend to sort of make a sort of defensive position up here, putting the Dragon's Wrath Guildsman down here is kind of a waste, and that could be the final nail in the defender's coffin at this point. Let's go back up to ×2 speed, I think. Dragon's Wrath Guildsman will hold for some time. They are a tough unit, but the amount of kills they're going to get against Pikemen and Blackback Berserkers is questionable. Victory seems certain. Blackback Berserkers have kind of fallen behind. They're not in the fight anymore. They're leaving the pikemen to do it on their own. What's this catapult doing? Is it going to try and get an arcing shot? Those Knights of Numenorians are still alive. The Forestshell Captains are still alive. There's still some Blackwatch Legion. The Dunedain Bodyguard is still alive. The Forestshell Gatekeepers, the Nimrodel Rangers and the Dunedain Rangers are all firing. The skirmishers of the attackers is what is really pulling them back into this in terms of killing those elites, because I don't think their infantry would have had the power to do that. Victory seems certain for them, and they're now sending forward the Carmel's Chosen, an armor-piercing, shielded version of the runic heavy infantry. Then also those Harbingers of Castamere are going to be recommitted to the line. Or are they? No, they're being pulled back. We'll see how the Blackback Berserkers affect this fight, and indeed I think they're going to be the thing that starts to break these runic units. Blackback Berserkers not armoured at all, of course, but the Harbingers are coming back in, and they should equalise this. It's not often you get to see the elite units of this nature and this amount clash. Again, this is the ultimate choke point fight. The skirmish fire might well push this in the favour of the attackers. There's also some battle-ready Dunedain, 2 units of albeit depleted units of battle-ready Dunedain being committed to the front line. And there's also those Dragon's Wrath crossbowmen. Do they still have ammunition? I don't think they do. The fact that they have their blades out would suggest not. Those Harbingers retreating. I think the runic player is sort of taking the initiative to sort of use all of his man up. The clan crossbows are still firing. Defeat seems certain. The Blackback Berserkers are doing a lot of work here on the front line. Such a deadly unit. At this point, let's see. 5% difference. The attackers are winning. It's whether the attackers have the elite units left to finish off all of those dwarves. The Sons of Durin, the Mithril Guard, the Dragon Slayers, they're all such strong units. The Dragon's Wrath crossbows are pretty good as well. The Harbingers of Castamere, there's still 2 units of them.
They have lost half their men.
These runic units will break though. The battle-ready Dunedain being committed to the front line as well. The runic infantry trying its best to hold, and they're holding out for a long, long time here. But ultimately I can't help but think this is going to be a bit of a mistake. If they were going to pull back, they should have done it, or they could have committed fully and tried to really crush some of these elite units. Again, these gatekeepers have got a lot of ammunition, as well as the Nimrodel Rangers, because they're depleted, so all of these AP missiles. Now the Mithril Guard are being recommitted, the clan crossbowmen firing into the side, the dismounted Dunedain Knights coming forward, another elite unit that the defenders are going to have to try and hold on this hill. Interestingly enough, bringing the catapult forward might well act as a beacon for the skirmish fire. Is the catapult going to fire? It is, actually. So the infantry is now being spared the skirmish fire. With the addition of the Mithril Guard as well, I don't know, I think there's still too many attackers on this ramp. They need to commit more if they're going to hold. Those Harbingers of Castamere will need to get back in here, and you can see that the Blackback Berserkers are sort of starting to go around the side. The Carmel's Chosen were really committed to a fight that they weren't ideally suited for. The dismounted Dunedain Knights, yes, but the Blackback Berserkers are the ideal unit to go up against the Carmel's Chosen with. Just a continual grind up this hill. Those dwarven units are good though. Will they be enough? Khazad-dûm Reclaimers still have some of their axes, it looks like. They're no joke in melee either. Is this catapult going to fire, or is it unable to? I think it might be blocked. At this point I would just go for the Blackwatch Legion. Try and get a lot of kills on them. You can see the attackers starting to file in. These Dunedain Rangers are coming forward. I mean, I'm not sure what they hope to accomplish, to be honest with you. I mean, they just stood there. The Harbingers of Castamere are being recommitted, albeit just a little too late. I think they never should have retreated, to be honest with you. Their presence on the front line was doing a lot of damage. There's more skirmish fire coming in from the Dunedain bodyguard, though. It looks like they just ran out of ammunition. They got their blades out. The Dol Amroth catapult is now here. You can see the Mithril Guard have done a tremendous job at pushing back the enemy, but ultimately there are too few of them to really make their presence felt against the battle-ready Dunedain and the Dunedain Knights. The support of those crossbows was probably pretty key as well. There's still a unit of pretty healthy Greenway Guards right here. They find themselves in a battle of elites, in which they can only really be support. These Dunedain Rangers are just sort of stood there. I think it's a little hard to target them because some of them are still in this fight over here. This catapult is still just stood there. I'm glad that I moved up to ×2 speed for this, otherwise we would have been here for a long time. Is catapult going to try and do something? I think that the defenders, or the attackers rather, are not targeting the catapult anymore, which is probably wise. These Harbingers of Castamere have restabilised the line, so the defenders have actually managed to weather this storm. The Blackback Berserkers are all dead now.
General lies dead. Pray our warriors
there goes Kamul.
And not despair.
At least I assume that's Kamul. I mean, there is the other runic general model, which is the Nazgul with horns that looks really goofy. These Dunedain Rangers, killed very quickly by the crossbowmen and are going to be finished off by the catapult crew of all things. These Dunedain Knights, they keep flip-flopping between victory and defeat. I think at this point I would send forward another unit of infantry to really hold this down. It looks like the Dragon Slayers are coming forward, and that will definitely do it. Actually, no, they're just getting into loose formation. I'm confused.
Curse the sun that shines on our disgrace. We must turn the wind of battle, or we will taste ashes instead of victory.
Knights of Numenorians could force their way through. I mean, the usefulness of doing so is questionable, because they would just be bogged down in elite units and probably die.
We have cut off the serpent's head.
Well, there goes the Misty Mountains general. That might be enough to send their units routing. Then again, I don't know if the Misty Mountains really have a great deal of men left other than the Blackwatch Legion down here. The Halberds probably won't be up to much in melee against this kind of opposition. The Dragon Slayers of Ered Mithrin coming forward to engage exactly the kind of foe they like to fight, the Dunedain Knights. Those crossbows still have ammunition. They've done a ton of work. Those clan crossbows, more than paying for themselves. Pretty much the one defender skirmisher that still has ammunition left. Oh, we're down to ×1 speed. The Arnold Gate Guards are back there. That's going to be a real issue for the defenders. They're going to need a lot of the Dwarven infantry to do their heavy lifting there, to force into their formation. These Dunedain Knights are not going down quietly, but the Dragon Slayers are holding firm. They still haven't lost a single man in their unit yet, but here comes another unit of dismounted Dunedain Knights forward, backed up by the Arnor Gate Guards. The men of Arthur Dane really committing. I think that the defenders definitely need to send forward men to support these Dragon Slayers now, because they're being overwhelmed. These Harbingers of Castamere would be just the thing as well. Or even the Dragon's Wrath crossbowmen, them armour piercing in melee, they do some heavy work against the Dunedain Knights, but they're not doing it. And the Dragon Slayers, they are being overwhelmed. Yeah, the defenders have been far too conservative with their men here at the end. They needed to defend in bulk, not piecemeal like they've done. And I think that that might ultimately be the thing that kills them off. They have pulled it back 1 percentage point, but they're not pulling it back quickly enough. And there are still attacking elites. I know the Forest Shell captains are still hanging around somewhere. There they are. No, that's the Haven Guard. Yeah, I don't see how the defenders can dig themselves out of this now. Maybe they can. We'll see. The Dragon's Wrath crossbows are now in melee supporting the Dragon Slayers, but the Dragon Slayers took so much damage because they were unsupported that might be it. We're getting into
the sun that shines on our disgrace. We must turn the wind of battle, or we will taste ashes instead of victory.
We're getting close to the final 10,000 frames at this point. The Khazad-dûm reclaimers are also coming down here to try and hold the line. You can see what I mean with how much ammunition the crossbows have. They've been firing at this defensive position for the past 20,000 frames near enough. That's far too much ammo for a unit of crossbows, because the amount of killing power they have is ridiculous. So I do hope that in the next patch crossbow ammunition is nerfed significantly, because the amount of The amount of killing power they have is just too much. The relative killing power they have should be comparable to archers. Archers should have more ammunition. Crossbows should have less bolts, but crossbows should do more damage per shot. That's how it should work. It shouldn't be a case of, if you get into the right position, your crossbows can fire all day long and kill without any sort of downside. And that, to me, is the biggest problem. It also works in field battles as well. For zoning out cavalry, if you play as Eriador against Rohan, you can just park your gatekeepers in the middle of a bunch of Cardland footmen, and you basically win 9 times out of 10. The Harbingers of Castamere have been committed forward, and I think that this is what the defenders have been trying to do, trying to sort of mitigate the crossbow fire, but it's not really worked out for them. They've had to commit piecemeal, and that's meant that the attackers have had a huge amount of advantages afforded to them. The Dragon Slayers were crushed underfoot. The Forest Shell Captains are coming forward with the Talon Knights. The Harbingers of Castamere, Dragon's Wrath Crossbows, and Khazad-dûm Reclaimers doing their best, but the Forest Shell Captains are trying to sort of worm around the side. And now the defenders are running out of men.
And are becoming tired.
Yeah, this is it. The Sons of Durin are the only ones left. They don't stand a chance. If we look here, 4% is still the difference. We move into the final 10,000 frames. The Sons of Durin are good, but I mean, they've got to deal with Haven Guard, Forest Shell Captains, Black Watch Legion. The Knights of Numenus could get a charge off on them when there's not much left. Finally, it looks... Nope. Nope, still more ammunition. The Dunedain Bodyguard though, that's fine, but you can see the Forest Shell Gatekeepers still have their crossbows out. And this is true of the Uruk-hai crossbows, this is true of the Clan crossbows, this is true of the Ironfoot crossbows as well. I'm glad that I finally managed to get the ideal sort of situation to showcase how ridiculous the crossbow ammunition level can be, because I think the defenders would have won this if not for how much ammunition crossbows have. And I think the defenders deserved to win this. They might still do it. Who knows? Maybe my complaining will be for naught in the end. But I've given enough hatred towards the Elder Enway archers, I think, and the time has come for me to give some hatred towards the standard crossbows of 3rd Age Reforged in the current iteration. But more worryingly, I've also heard that there is no plans to change the crossbow ammunition, unlike the AP archers, which I think is wrong, to be honest with you. But that's just my opinion. I'm sure I'll learn to deal with it if they decide that the crossbows should still have unlimited ammo. The Sons of Durin are being committed, so this is it. The final stand. The Arnor Gate Guards at the front, forcing back the defending infantry. But yeah, now the Haven Guard are being sent forward. More heavy hitters. The Sons of Durin will do very well against all of these units. The Arnor Gate Guards will need more support after all. I'm surprised that these Greenway Guards haven't been sent forward. We shall see. Their presence might be required. Victory does seem certain for the defenders up here after all. Sons of Durin. I've seen these guys tank an incredible amount of damage before with their warhammers. Again, I think that in a general situation, I'm not sure if I would pick the Sons of Durin over one of the shielded Dwarven units, if I had to pick between them. But in this sort of situation, in a siege, definitely the Sons of Durin. On a field battle, maybe slightly less so. It's difficult to tell. Of course, all will be changing soon, hopefully with the addition of that new patch. I'll finally have new things to talk about. I'm sure that I repeat myself every single replay. Forest Shell Gatekeepers still have ammunition. That's something new at least. My complaining about crossbows. Ooh, attacking artillery. Managing to get the crossbow banner carrier. Do the crossbows still have their crossbows out, or have they finally run out? No, they've run out. Oh dear. Decapitated and routing. Brutal. Yes, we can now see the Haven Guard, the Talon Knights, the Gate Guards and the Forest Shell Captains all fighting as one. Will this be sufficient? You can see Dane in the background over there. You can see the balance of forces is evenly matched. They won't win this, the defenders, I don't think. They might just about win this encounter, but then the Blackwatch Legion, the Greenway Guards down there, there's just too many men left, I think, for them to deal with. I'm not sure if the Misty Mountains player has crashed or something, because his forces are just sort of sat there, and the Blackwatch Legion would be just what they need to finish them off at this point.
We must turn the wind of battle, or we will taste ashes instead of victory.
Heading towards the final 5,000 frames. The Sons of Durin victory still seems certain. They're doing a good amount of damage to these forces on the front line. I would be amazed if they managed to carry the whole battle at this point. If they did, it would be because some players might have timed out back there, but we'll see. Those crossbows routed all the way to the town centre from there. There is no retreat from this place. Ooh, my headphones are going slightly weird. I do need to get new headphones, to be honest, but I am very poor. So they shall have to wait. Dunedain Knights. You can see the Dunedain Bodyguard is now out of ammunition. And the Dunedain Bodyguard, of course, is a very accomplished melee combatant. They will probably be heading up here to reinforce, and that might be what pushes this attack over the edge. The Knights of Numenorians at this point could use their mass to force their way through as well. There's still Harbingers of Castamere in the background there. I know that they're technically called Harbringers, but Harbingers just sounds better. So I shall be calling them that. What's a Harbinger anyway? Madness. Ah, finally we have the Knights of Numenorians. Are they going to charge? What are they doing? Yes, they are. The cavalry will finally get to do something after their brethren ran through the spikes. Here they go. Are they going to force their way through, or are they just going to park themselves in melee?
Wisest one, we have lost control of the castle.
They're actually going to force their way through. I think they're actually going to park themselves in the town centre, which is kind of a lame way to do it.
We have cut off the serpent's head. The enemy general.
Well, there goes
is
the
slain.
Eriador general.
Let's see how these snakes fight without their head.
I can't see a timer. They are going to be a charge good. I didn't want them to park in the town centre and win based on a ticking clock. That would have been very lame, because it looks like they're going to win anyway. At least win the proper way. Winning by taking the town centre never really feels particularly satisfying. It's downright annoying if you're the defender. You can see that the Dunedain Bodyguard are also coming forward, so Arnor.
We have lost control of the castle.
The final nail in the coffin. The attackers win again. It's difficult to win as the defenders with these sorts of parameters when you're outnumbered by an army. Even when the attackers made several mistakes, in my opinion. Most glaringly that time they charged through the spikes with the Knights of Numenorians, but Eriador's advance was fraught with peril. I think that the aggression that the Misty Mountains player showed with his trolls and such really did. That was the turning point, I think, because they were doing quite poorly at that point, the attackers. But then the defenders, I think they panicked and they tried to pull back, and they ended up losing a lot of men doing so. I think if they just came down off their hill here in the town centre, they could have controlled the Misty Mountains a lot better, and then they would have been able to hold against Dol Guldur and Eriador a little longer. But as it was, the defenders lost, and actually, for once, the person who sent me the replay wasn't on the winning team, which is nice. Because I'm sure that someone eventually would have complained about that. But there's nothing I can do about that when someone sends me a replay.
My lord, our men are in command of the castle.
These crossbows are wavering. There's nowhere for them to retreat to at this point now.
Our men no longer command the castle.
I wonder if the dog is being picked up on my mic. Regardless, we can see that we're finally getting into the final 1,000 frames. And finally, the Forest Shell Gatekeepers are out of ammunition and are being committed to melee. Presumably where they can pad their kill counts a little bit more with those clan crossbows. There goes King Dane at the hands of the Knights of Numenorians and the Haven Guard. There's no shame in being killed by those two units. But yes, Dol Guldur is a fun map, but obviously it does turn into a very choke pointy map in that final ramp. 65,000 frames is a pretty long battle as well, but yes, the attackers win. The Numenorian inheritors, being backed up weirdly by the orcs and goblins of the Misty Mountains, defeat Rune, the dwarves, and Umbar. There goes Castamere.
We must look to our own soldiers for victory now.
Yeah, your clan crossbows.
Curse the sun that shines on our cursed foe has stolen victory from us like a thief in the night. They will not be so fortunate next time.
The dwarves getting a lot of kills, definitely against Eriador primarily, and then on that final stand with all their elites. The Misty Mountains player doing very well, getting more kills even than the Runic player, which is impressive for an attacker. I think his aggressive push really helped him against Eriador and Arnor. Less fortunate, shall we say. Dol Amroth being slightly aggressive as well. Let's have a look at the Runic kills. He got the lowest amount of kills for the defenders, but his clan crossbows, that one unit, got a ton of kills. I think that was actually the most kills a unit of his got, which is very, very impressive. I think that the Carmel's Chosen were committed prematurely, as well as the Dragon's Wrath Guildsmen. There were several things they could have done, but I think ultimately, with all of those crossbows they were up against, and the crossbows just don't run out of ammunition. They were always onto a losing thing. They didn't have enough skirmishers left at the end, and their artillery was also misused, I think. But yes, that was a fun Dol Guldur siege, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you'll join me for whatever is next, which should be a Horton scenario. I hope.